Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. It's Record-ology Live, coming to you this evening from the beautiful city of Orlando, Florida, where the weather today was surprisingly mild. It's been, very hot here. I've been down here a ton throughout the years, at various times throughout the year, but living consecutively over the past few months, really learning what that day-to-day weather is like and kind of when it ebbs and flows. And today was a delightful, cool day, which I was very, very thankful for. Welcome in, everybody. No agenda tonight, just hanging out. Gonna have some fun. WHHS Entertainment, hello. Spirit Hunter, welcome in. Jeremy, welcome in. Old Radios, pre-roll ads. I know they're so annoying, but you'll be glad to know that I have abolished and will continue to do so all mid-roll ads on lives because they're just so awful. Not just for my show, but for other shows. I mean, I was in, oh gosh, what was some live recently, one of my favorite content creators, and they were talking about something where they're building up, kind of like reading the lottery number kind of deal, and then that mid-roll hit right when the good part was going to happen. And I was like, you know what? I need to not do that to anybody. So flipped it off, but I appreciate you sitting through the pre-roll. The good news is nothing super important happens during that pre-roll, 30 seconds or so. Mostly I'm just kidding. Usually, you know what I do in the very first 30 seconds of these shows, knowing that even people that jump right onto the live aren't going to see it. Usually what I do is address the people who are watching the replay and say, hey, and I didn't do that today, but usually I say, hey, welcome in. If you're watching the replay, definitely hit the bell. Notify, to be notified when we go live, assuming YouTube does its thing, which sometimes it does. So welcome in, everybody. Marcus, Music Mayhem. Hello, Record-ology. Recently picked up Glenn Miller Army LP box. That is a absolute must-have in the arsenal of Glenn Miller collectors. I love that set. That's a great introduction to the Army band. I'm looking at mine over there on the shelf. I've got the, I think it's 12 EPs, 7-inch version. But whenever it comes to those mid 50s Glenn Miller box sets, if you go for the LP versions, it's a better choice because the music isn't truncated. So if you have the LP version, that's a good thing. Reel-to-reel tape machine, says Old Radios. Got another record player and a new, I'm jealous. I want a new record player and a new reel-to-reel machine. There's so many out there. There's so many cool ones. So I'm curious, which one did you get? Welcome in, Eddie. Super Prince, welcome in. Greg, welcome in. Marcus, would you be interested in getting rid of any doubles of Glenn Miller that you have? I don't know if I have any more doubles. No, I do. I do have some. I'm not sure. That's a good question. Would you guys be interested in Glenn Miller giveaways? I usually don't think of giving those away because usually a vinyl community is 90% rock and roll, and people that listen to non-rock and roll sort of a subset of that. That's one reason why I attribute our audience size to perhaps being a subset of a larger community, and which is fine by me. I mean, I'm going to be passionate about what I'm passionate about. I'm going to talk about the music I love. And so I don't want to be disingenuous and be like, yeah, I was listening to Megadeth all week, because I wasn't. There was a time when I was, but not anymore. So, if that means that, a certain amount of people are drawn to that, then that's fine. That being said, let me think on that. I don't know why not. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do some giveaways. I do have some. I thought I had cleared them out because I, bombard my Glenn Miller friends with them. But I think I've bombarded them enough. So perhaps we can talk about that as a giveaway. I like that idea. In fact, I'm going to write that down. Glenn Miller doubles as giveaways. Excellent. Add that to the board. Got a board of good ideas on the wall, and that's going to be added to it. Thank you for the suggestion. And a radio, Old Radios. What the heck? WHHS, I'm going over my little over 60 shellac records that I bought from Goodwill recently. Wow. Those don't show up too often at Goodwill. Man, I miss Goodwill. I haven't Goodwill Hunting. I was like Goodwill Hunting. I didn't mean it like the movie, but that's funny. I miss hunting for records at Goodwill. I have not done that since I have been here. I need to do that. There's not as many Goodwill thrift stores in Orlando as there are in Denver. So that's really cool. You found some. Spirit Hunter. I bought a cheap Victrola all-in-one turntable and I need help. I'm a teenager and kind of want a new one. What should I do? So I'm taking that you are wanting to upgrade from the Victrola, not that there is a problem with it. So check out our videos. We've done a lot of videos on great first turntables and stuff. I would suggest doing that. Off the top of my head, the greatest starting point for a beginner is the Audio-Technica LP60X. And there's a couple variants of them. They used to be super cheap. You used to get a brand new one, fully automatic turntable for $99. And oh man, I was talking to somebody in the industry at one of the manufacturers recently, and we were reminiscing of the good old days pre-lockdown. But keep in mind, you will need powered speakers or a stereo system because they don't have built-in speakers, all that good stuff. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, check out the playlist for beginners and welcome aboard. Marcus, I'm trying to get into him. Okay, Marcus, I'm missing a key element. Oh, trying to get into Glenn Miller. Okay, cool. Sorry. Short-term memory. So the Marcus, let me try not to go on a diatribe because you've hit on a passionate subject for me. Glenn Miller records, so many of them are greatest hits, regurgitated greatest hits collections, that the bulk of what you will find out there is just that. Once you've sort of collected that stuff for a little bit, you realize that there's a couple key things you want to collect, and those are more complete. So I would suggest, and you can research this. We've done videos, look at my videos of my showing various stages of my Glenn Miller collections. And I've done some Glenn Miller filming locations from the Glenn Miller story with Jimmy Stewart in 1954 in Colorado. Went to a couple different filming locations, which is really cool. But anyway, what you really want are the complete sets. On vinyl, their RCA in the 70s put out I think it's 12 volume double LP set where it was literally every Bluebird recording / RCA Victor recording done. Then you've got all the Army stuff. The Army band was a very different animal. It was a big band. It was an orchestra. It was an orchestra with the big band. There was also subsets where those units played individually, separately, together. I guess individually and separately would be the same thing. You know what I mean? There was also like a small jazz combos. There was all kinds of cool stuff that they did over there. There was an Office of War Information material. There was all kinds of cool stuff, crazy, crazy cool stuff. So that's a rabbit trail. But if you're starting off collecting Glenn Miller, just sample it and see what you can find. It's hard to find things at like thrift stores and stuff. And if you look on eBay, it's going to be 90% greatest hits. You may want to research what kind of music of the Glenn Miller music you like. Like, do you like the live stuff, the radio remotes? Those are really fun. A lot of people within the Glenn Miller community prefer the radio recordings versus the studio recordings because they are considered to be more lively, upbeat, fun, loose, all that good stuff. They need some work. Well, old radios, that's right up your alley. Greg, my friend, welcome in. Sony TC252. Looking it up. I love it when you guys drop a mention of a model or making a model. I want to look it up. Ooh, that's cool. Yeah. I can tell you right now that looks late 60s, maybe early 70s. Back when Sony was a badge of quality, no matter what. Jeremy got the Klim Discovery, and for the few CDs I have, awesome. Hope you enjoy that. It's a super cool. I use mine daily, nightly, and a Silvertone version of the GE Wildcat. I need to pick up a Wildcat-esque device, and we need to review it. That's what my dad had. I think he had a Wildcat. Genre going to be dance. Interesting genre, be dance. Gary, keep it simple. Welcome in. Having some insomnia, my friend? Joining from the UK, where it is late. Thank you for joining. I'm just teasing. I really appreciate you being there. And I am super far behind on comments already. Yay! By the way, if you're just joining, welcome in. We talk about anything you want. So ask me any questions, offer any advice. We also dropped a show a few minutes before this video went live. So after you're done here, feel free to go over there and watch that. It's about the Technics SLBD22. Had it now for almost a year, having an issue, and I need your help. So if you think you might be able to help with that, I would love to get your advice. So check out that video after this. Have I ever gotten any imported records? Yes, absolutely. I've got a ton of import. Well, not a ton. I've got a healthy amount of imports, cassettes, CDs, vinyl, of course, and tapes, everything. I guess everything. Every form. I've got some really fun imports, and I've done shows. I think I've done shows in the past about like the most interesting or oddball versions of things and records, and usually those come up in those shows. Let me try and do that again. Maybe just focusing on, that's another good idea. So I'm going to write that down. Imports only. I like it. Imports are fun, just to get a different version. And if you really go get into the weeds on something like Beatles, I'm not supposed to say that. My wife's like, stop talking about the Beatles. People are so sick of the Beatles. They don't want to hear about Glenn Miller. They don't want to hear about Patsy Cline. They don't want to hear about the Beatles anymore. Find something new. That being said, the Beatles have a lot of different versions if you get an import versus a non-import and things like that. I feel like I'm missing part of that conversation too. What are we picking up? A couple other ones. Just can't remember the name. Let me know what we're talking about there. I'm sorry. Play some records. I do have my setup ready to go for tonight, so maybe we will. That's cool, Super Prince. That would be awesome. Going to be a new Goodwill near me. Wow. Sam, welcome in. I finally got the Willy Wonka vinyl I've been searching for. It's a promo vinyl, so apparently they're more valuable. Patience pays off. Indeed it does, my friend. Man, Willy Wonka on vinyl, I would love that. I love that music. In fact, I was just listening to that. That's some great stuff. What a great movie. I mean, it's just, I'm too young to have seen it theatrically, but I remember as a kid, wearing out the VHS tape of that. So I, do have a childhood association to that. That's great. That is really, really cool. I own a copy of the soundtrack on iTunes. After being back into the physical media, I don't feel like the things I purchased in iTunes, which I know you're just buying a license, you're not even really owning anything, but you really feel like that's less and less of a thing. Like, yeah, you spent $10 on something you don't have. And now with Apple Music that I, pay a monthly subscription fee for, the idea of having a digital copy of something kind of lost its allure, as it were. But yeah, it's great music. WHHS Entertainment. One of the shellac records I found and bought was a Glenn Miller Victor record, Basket Weaver. Funnily enough, I donated a copy of that to you. Yes, you did. You've donated some amazing things. You guys have done it. Somebody on the live last time said they were sending me a Patsy Cline record. I'm just like so excited for whatever shows up because you guys blow me away. And a Patsy Cline record on 78, that's a grail record for me. So hoping that one comes to fruition. You guys are so awesome. So many gifts you guys have sent, so many Glenn Miller things. You guys hone in on what it is I like. Beatles stuff. I said it again. Sorry. That's the last time. I'm not going to say it again. The Ruddles. Jeremy says, currently looking out for a good copy of Dick Hyman's Moog LP. That would be cool. That would be very cool. I dig it. Do you like Taylor Swift? Says Spirit Hunter. Spirit Haunter. I do like Taylor Swift to a degree. I mean, I enjoy the music when it comes on the radio. I've got no issue with it whatsoever. And would I go seeking it out? Not very often, but if it comes on the radio, I do enjoy it. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I don't know what you would call that, a light fan, but yeah, absolutely. And I do listen to some modern music. It surprises some people, but I actually do listen to a lot of modern music. And I have a small collection of modern artist vinyl. It's really interesting, though. When I whip out the Lady Gaga vinyl, That's a very polarizing artist. A lot of people get mad at me when I put that music on, but I like older Lady Gaga. So see, that's not even like new popular stuff. I like 2012, 13 era Lady Gaga. I love my Pioneer PL 12D. That's awesome. Just found a box of 45s, about 80 or 90 of them, had a ton of Motown in there. You know, Motown is something I've been wanting to get some more of. Motown is underrepresented in my collection. Definitely need to do that for sure. Nikki says, hey, from Canada, I have a question. Yesterday I bought a record player or a record, and the inner sleeve was like paper plastic and it's static stuck to the record. How to fix the static when switching to different sleeves? So that is a great question. Vinyl material, like the actual PVC vinyl that records are made out of, are really good for one reason and really bad for another. The reason why that is a good material for making records out of is the needle on a silent blank piece of vinyl has almost no background noise. It's almost dead silent. So it's a very good material from that standpoint. That being said, vinyl also has a nasty characteristic that it picks up static electricity like crazy. It picks up static. It just gets really staticky. So there are sleeves that are on the market that have anti-static properties. There are anti-static brushes. I use an Ortofone carbon fiber brush, and it doesn't have to be Ortofone, but see those bristles? By the way, if you ever wondered, carbon fiber bristles just feel like soft plastic. There's nothing that funky about it. But that tools like that, anti-static cleaner runs off static. The cheapest and easiest way to, there's also these zero stat guns that are like you point it at it and it zaps off the static. Expensive. The cheapest and probably most effective way to get rid of static on a record is just to get it wet. Put it under the faucet, get it wet, clean it. All of that contact with water will zap out all that static electricity. And then to prevent it from becoming static-y, there's tools like that. And again, we've done videos on that, so it can be done. Paper plastic sleeves, it depends on if it's an anti-stat. By the way, I do keep those. I used to just toss all paper plastic sleeves, but if I've got a sleeve that comes lined with it's probably poly, it's not just, cheap plastic, then, I usually keep those around. But yeah, if you have a paper sleeve, I would definitely recommend upgrading that. Dang typos. No worries, Jeremy. It happens all the time. David says PL12D. Looking that up. Oh, yeah. I like it. Yes. I like the SME head shell on that, at least the one I'm looking at. Yeah, it looks like a solid daily driver. Very, very cool. Old radios. I got a Quasar Great Time Machine from 1977. A U-matic. Wow. From 1972. Probably one of the first VCRs ever made. If you want to see something really cool and you're into video, like retro video stuff, look up early videotape recorders where the drum is exposed. Sony made some fantastic looking ones. Elvis, I read once, actually traveled with his entourage as early as the 60s when he used to drive a van. Yes, he used to drive a van, and he would drive in like this Dodge kind of egg-looking van all the way from Nashville out to Hollywood to make his movies in the 60s. They would go out there, and on the way, he would travel with multiple TVs and videotape machines, and those are very, very cool. Now, U-matic, obviously a cassette or a video cassette format, very cool. I actually have, if you can believe it, U-matic tapes. I actually own U-matic tapes from my days in broadcast. I worked for a TV network that was using U-matic later than they should. While everybody else was sort of on Beta SP, they were still using U-matic SP. But yeah, 3/4 inch tape, awesome format. Just bought the Beatles from eBay. Really cool. Which one did you get? The Beatles would be the White Album. I've said it multiple times. I'm not even going to try anymore. I tried to not say it, but I just say it. So, Spirit Haunter says, Record-ology. Also, whenever I play a song, the singer is going into the high note. It sounds gurgly. This is on the Victrola. That's a great descriptive question, by the way. So those record players use a technology called a ceramic cartridge, which I don't have handy right now, but the actual stylus, the needle housing and everything fits into this cartridge, and the cartridge is, the red tip with a black plastic thing. That is what changes those grooves into sound that we can hear. And unfortunately, the ceramic cartridges just don't sound that good. So they have a harder time with those high notes like you're talking about. They have a harder time with bass notes. They're less compliant, meaning that they're basically stiffer and they have a harder time tracking that groove accurately. And those extremes of the groove, that the modulation of the groove, those extreme points in the modulation is often where, high notes and bass notes are hiding. So it depends on a lot of factors. There's a lot going into it, but those record players, you just have to realize, only sound good to a certain level. They will probably improve if you plug it into if they have an output, either a headphone out or a line out on the back, into a bigger sound system. But they're never going to compete with, something like this, because these use a different technology in the cartridge. They use a moving magnet. So the sound quality is, pristine compared to those. That being said, there's nothing wrong with them. They won't damage your records, but the sound quality is going to be limited on a wooden all-in-one or a suitcase. That being said, it's, for what it is, it's fine. That's why people often look at this as like a starting point. They're like, hey, this is cool, this is fun, but I really want to take it to the next level. So I think that once you make that jump, you will experience, a lot. RID Dim Shot. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. What is this behind me? This is a Pioneer PLX 500 direct drive. It's essentially an Audio-Technica LP120 made by the same company, Handpin Turntables. And it's a great turntable. Direct drive. Right now I've got a Audio-Technica 3600 cartridge with a green, you can see barely, it's kind of dark out. You can see the green stylus housing. That's because I have the fan steel wide groove, 3mm groove for playing 78s. It is a 3-speed turntable. Really cool. This is from their DJ line. This is the lowest end one. It's like $360 new. I bought mine used. It was like 1 week old. The guy had bought this and then came into owning a higher end turntable really quick and easy and sold this thing off to me. So it only had like 2 weeks of use when I bought it. So I got it for $300. But this one actually has a digital, it's a USB as well. It's got a digital controller for doing DJ work. Then the higher end one is the PLX 1000. That's on par with that's when you're getting up to the Technics grade stuff. So it's a more robust. That one's only 2-speed. It doesn't have a dust cover. It's more to put in a road case and actually do professional DJ work. Then they have a new one coming out, a new PLX one that's even crazier than all of these. So, but yeah, it's a good. I use this for mostly playing 78s. It works good for that. Supper Prince from Japan, the greatest hits. It's white vinyl. That's really cool. Looks like a PLX 500. Absolutely, Pioneer. You guys got there before I did. What are the best speakers for turntables? Victor, it's a good question, and it's very subjective, meaning that what sounds good to me might not sound good to you. It's also very complex to answer that question because there's so many speakers, and I've only heard a certain amount of speakers. Now, there's 2 ways to go about speakers with turntables. The traditional route is to get a receiver and hook up your record player to the receiver, and then the receiver, you hook up speakers, floor speakers, shelf speakers, whatever brand, whatever power that that's all handled between the receiver and the speaker. But then there's another route, and the route that I've chosen is to go with powered speakers or active speakers. So I use a bookshelf. They've got them right here, left and right. They're about yay tall, and they're self-powered. They've got a built-in amplifier, so I can connect right from the record player to the speaker, and there's a volume control on the speaker. And oftentimes those will also be Bluetooth, and they'll have subwoofer outputs. I've got a sub output to a floor sub, and they do fantastic. And I've reviewed probably 6 or 7 different powered speakers at this point. For me, the number one most recommended best sounding by far, and the ones I have here are my Fluence AI 41s. They sound crisper, brighter, deeper bass, just better, more present than anything else I've heard by far. Absolutely, bar none, the best powered speakers I have ever heard. And I've heard, like I said, only 6 or 7, but these are good. These are really good. I would like to upgrade to ones with a little bit bigger driver. Not that I need more power. They're 45 watts per channel, 90 watts total, but they just are, they're robust. They're not perfect, but nothing is quite perfect. Things I don't like about them, they're open face. They don't have a grill. I used to like to take the grills off and see the drivers kind of, plunging in and out. I've gotten over that in my old age. Now I'd rather have like a cloth grill. Also, the faceplates are plastic, and in moving down here to Florida, I nicked the corner of my left channel one, and it kind of shaved off like a cheap plastic, which is good because it's a deep walnut, like an actual walnut cabinet. Gold terminals, everything's super. It's got a polymer main. It's a two-way speaker, so the woofer is a fiberglass actually, and the tweeter is a neopretium, some kind of super silk high-end thing, and they sound crisp and perfect and deep and beautiful. But I don't know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, building materials, but everything's high quality build except for these cheap faceplates. These cheapo faceplates, they're just, this kind of tacky plastic. So that's the only gripe I have. I really like the U-turn ones they came out with recently. They have the magnetic snap-on faceplates, but the speakers themselves, if you do an A/B comparison with the U-turns and these, it's pretty drastic. So I would go with the AI 41s by Fluence, my recommended speaker. It's what I listen to every day. Fantastic speakers. I had the Betamax for 10 years and it never had an issue until last night. I need to find a Beta SP player because I've got a literal, like a giant tub full, maybe 2 giant tubs full of Beta SP tapes. Everything from the 90-minute giant ones down to the little 5-minute ones. I need to I have duplicated those. Last time I did it was to DV, and I need to do them to an upscaled HD. I need to just digitize them to like a solid state at this point. I just got an upgraded model on Friday. That's cool. Yeah, I've been, my friend Fardamark, who's another YouTuber here, has really tried to get me into Betamax. I don't see myself going down that road. I think it's cool. I do. I'm a VHS kid, and I know the whole Betamax VHS thing intimately. Betamax is a very interesting format, and I like the idea of the different quality versions, but I lived intimately with Beta SP, which is an evolution of Betacam. All the way from that format's industry standard use up until the transition to the SX, Betacam SX, which was I think that was either digital or just before they switched to digital. I used to be a buyer for a network of Beta SP tapes, and that was a fun job because I got to try out all different brands of tapes, Sony, Fuji, and my favorite Beta SP tapes were Maxell. They made a fantastic tape, absolutely fantastic tape. High quality, really good, everything. And if you don't know what's the difference between Betacam and Beta Max, is the Betacam, Betacam SP, and all that broadcast variants that kind of took over that's where Beta went when it died off as a consumer format, is it went into broadcast. It's metal. So it's kind of like a Type 4 audio tape, but for video. It uses metal. It's much faster than a Betacam tape. For instance, the most, like if you take the small shell Betacam tape, the most video you can store on that thing is 30 minutes max. Whereas Beta Max, you put a whole movie on a small shell tape. And if you get the giant Beta SP tapes, the largest capacity you can put on is 90 minutes. Those things are beasts, and I have some of those. I love that stuff. Greg says, my mom and dad, when they were living, had Glenn Miller records. That's great, Greg. That's such good music. I love it. Still to this day. Pioneer PL12D is my baby, says David. That's awesome. Columbus, Ohio in the house. Welcome in, David. Older, it is one of my favorite movies. Yeah, Glenn Miller's story is great. Steven says the turntable is never the same after the tone arm is damaged. I have that same turntable. Steven, you're talking about my new video, I presume. And so is it a tracking error due to the busted and repaired tone arm? That would seem to make the most sense. What doesn't make sense to me about that issue, assuming you're talking about that issue, otherwise you're probably really confused, is why does it start off normal and then build up until it sounds like that? And the only thing to do is shut it off and come back the next day. It's like static building up in it. And it's not even consecutive use. Like I can listen to a record, 2 records, 3 records, it's fine, shut it off, go to lunch, come back, flip it on, put the 4th record on, and all of a sudden it's staticky. So it's not like if it's on for a certain amount of time, then it builds up the static or whatever. It's very odd. I can't figure it out. Mr. Londell's Groovy Movies. So have you tried any moving coil cartridges yet? I have not. I really want to. I do have moving coil compatible preamps in the IFI Zen and IFI Zen Air. The LP3 Audio Technica, which I do not own anymore. I never thought I would get rid of that thing. I love that turntable. My absolute favorite turntable for the longest time. Had an actual moving coil setting on a $199 turntable. Had a moving coil preamp setting, which is amazing. And I would like to experiment with that. Absolutely. And I would also like to try some different cuts of different, tips. I'd like to try like Shibata styli and other things. Steve says, Patsy Cline has an interesting footnote in history. It was Patsy Cline's CD was the very first thing Netflix sent as an experiment when they started doing the DVD service. What? They used a Patsy Cline CD as the very first. That is cool, Steve. I did not know that. If you have an article on that, email that to me. That's cool. Saying the Beatles all the time must have bugged her, didn't it? So I happen to be a fairly obsessive person. So when I get transfixed on something, like the Beatles, I will talk about it a lot. And in so doing, it can get on people's nerves. and least of which, my family, anybody will get, you guys, absolutely. It'll just drive everybody nuts. So. Excellent. Yes, we've had Mrs. Record-ology on before, Greg. Absolutely. Super Prince. As of recent, I've seen a couple of pre-recorded cassettes. I bought a couple. How is your experience with pre-recorded cassettes? So when I grew up with cassettes, that was the format of my generation. And CDs came along when I was, they came along, a long time before, but they came into prominence. And I'm thinking like 91, 92 is when it kind of took over the mainstream. And at that point, I'm in junior high and I kind of experienced that transition. And I was always late on transitioning to the next technology. So I think I got my first CD player in 94. No, that's not true. 92. I had the Sony boombox in 92. Anyway, so I guess I was right on track there. But with cassettes, I only knew of pre-recorded cassettes. Blanks to me were just, to me in my experience were just junkier, older tapes used for recording stuff off the radio, which I knew wouldn't sound as good. To me, a pre-recorded cassette was the best. So keep in mind, I was using like boom boxes and just whatever I had as a kid. Come to find out that was a reverse of what most people viewed them as. They mostly viewed pre-recorded cassettes as subpar. And if you wanted to make a good recording, you should do it yourself. Now, today I have the tools to do that. I have this beautiful Yamaha cassette deck, and it does a fantastic job. You can play with Dolby. You can play with various aspects, the bias on it, different things, and you can make a very good sounding cassette. But I still enjoy pre-recorded cassettes. I know they usually use a lower grade cassette or a lower grade tape material formulation. And if it does usually it's type 1. If it uses a type 2, it's usually tuned or EQ'd to type 1. But my experience has been that I love pre-recorded cassettes. And if somebody handed me 2 cassettes of an album I wanted and said, hey, here's 2 copies, you can have either one, same price or free, whatever. This one is pre-recorded, released officially. This one was made in my super duper high-end tape deck, my Nakamichi Dragon, spared no expense. Which one would you take? I would still take the pre-recorded cassette. That's just me. Tape head demagnetizer, says David. Do you think I should demagnetize? Are you talking about demagnetizing the stylus? And that's the other thing. I've replaced the cartridge. So I thought about maybe the stylus picking up a bunch of excess static, which I'm not even sure if it's a static or if it's a geometry issue. But I've replaced the stylus, so it can't be that. I also use an anti-static liquid stylus cleaner between each play, usually. No difference. Steve says, I was at a heavy metal festival, all kinds of vinyl records in the vendor area. Too bad, only had carry-on luggage, so no safe way to bring it back. So bought CDs instead. That's funny you mentioned that because, first of all, I remember, and I showed this on the show a few years, when we went to CES in 2020. Boy, what timing that was. January of 2020, I'm in Vegas with like 500,000 people wearing masks and wondering why. And anyway, so I happened to see a record. There was a record shop kind of set up in like one of the travel stores at the airport. So we're about to fly out. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And I see this record of the Rat Pack. It was beautiful. I still have it, obviously. Just listened to it this week, actually. Blue vinyl, Rat Pack at the Sands, and no practical way to bring it back. I had a carry-on and a backpack. I wouldn't put them in either. So I'm like determined to have this record. So I just sat there. I just sat there holding it. And they didn't even challenge me because I technically was only allowed a carry-on and a personal item, which was my backpack. I had a carry-on personal item, and I just happened to be holding this shopping bag of a record. So I sat with that bad boy on my lap. Glad I did so, but I know the feeling. In terms of records at shows, I wish more of them would do that. Up until this year, is the first year I haven't gone since 2017. I used to love and hope to go back to this World War II festival they had in Boulder every year back in Colorado. It was all vintage 40s. The Glenn Miller Orchestra was there. They had armies. I've done videos on it. If you want to see that, check out the festival videos we did. All kinds of vendors selling retro everything. And one year they had a mom and pop shop selling all big band music. I'm like, this is perfect. Vinyl revival. It was a lot of hipsters. There it was. But there was a healthy amount of people that were even World War II veterans. There's a few of them left, sadly. But people from that generation were there, and kids and people getting into it still, and which is a great place to sell those records. And I picked up a copy of one of the volumes of the complete Tommy Dorsey. We talked earlier about the complete Glenn Miller 12 volume set, and they did the same thing for Dorsey. I don't know if they finished Dorsey. I think they did 2 big bands completely, and then gave up in the middle of the third. But that was a really cool idea. So I get it though. CDs, they're cheap, they're portable, they travel well, and I love CDs too. So like for instance, my Unspeakable band that I'm not supposed to talk about anymore collection isn't all vinyl. I have all the albums now. It's not all vinyl. It's not all CD. It's both. But between the 2 formats, I've got everything. And I'm trying to tell myself I don't need everything on both formats. Jaime, welcome in. I'm currently trying to collect blue cassettes from the 70s that were on ABC, Dunhill Records, Bell Records, and colorful cassettes. That's really cool. I think I have one. I think I've got a Roy Clark, and I'm not sure what label Roy Clark was on, but it's got this cool shell where you kind of insert the tape and it snaps into it from the outside. But I agree, cool colored cassettes and records, that's great. That's really cool. I'm looking over at a stack of cassettes. I see a few colored ones, not enough. But again, yeah, let's make it fun, To me, the worst ugliest, boringest type of cassette color in terms of the shell was those off-white ones. Like if you went to church in the 80s and 90s and you had sermon duplication tapes, they were always on these horrific, off-white, boring cassettes. Although, as a colleague of mine on here recently discovered, that packed with good quality tape stock. I have a few, but why not make them fun? Why make them colorful? You know what I mean? Make them fun. That's a cool collection idea. Oh, for VHS, David, I see. What are we talking about, Richard? I don't know. You tell me. That's what my dad would always say if I asked him that. We're talking about anything you want to talk about. John says, looking for a stereophonic copy of 1965 Cinderella soundtrack from Columbia Records on vinyl. That is cool. I don't think I've got Cinderella. I got a knockoff Cinderella. I don't even have a Disney Cinderella. I need to find that. I do collect Disney vinyl. That is so cool. VHS for audio recording, says David. Done it. And a great, cheap way to get high fidelity recordings. Absolutely. We did a show on it too. Still got JVC Super VHS VCR. Those are the cream of the crop, Steve. When I started film school, that's what we shot on, was SVHS. And I remember thinking, this is so high end. I've got this. And it was still one of these deals, right? This SVHS, full-size SVHS. And this was film school in the late 90s. And I felt like I had the most premium video format known to man. I also remember feeling that feeling years later, like 2006 or so, when I got my hands on the first HD camera, and it was it was 1080. It was not even 1080p. It was 720p. But yeah, it's VHS. Incredible format. Does it have the jog control on it and stuff? That stuff's good. Super Print says it's white. I paid $30 for it from Japan. That is so cool. Adam, welcome in. If you're late, I'm even later getting into the comments, as you can tell. I'm trying to get caught up. I'm never able to stay on top of these things. But thank you, guys. Keep the comments coming. Keep the questions coming. I'll get there eventually. Still rocking my Technics SLQL15 linear tracker. Yes, Steve, right off camera here on the right, I've got my SLDL1. It's a trooper. I love it. I need to do a show on it's funny because the show topics often are about things I need to fix or deal with. And this one has a problem where the acrylic dust cover is pretty scratched and scuffed. So I want to try one of these like miracle wipe off the scratches kind of things. I don't want to do one of these super potent, you can peel the skin off of your fingers kind of thing. I want to try something a little bit more subtle, but see if it works. If that doesn't work, maybe I have to go to something more extreme. But with that being said, if I fix that, it would be virtually perfect. This is a gift from a viewer. A viewer sent a direct drive turntable to me in perfect working order with extra stylus and cartridges. Crazy. Summerprint says, I have two hi-fi VHS. However, I use it to record music. Awesome. I have an NSE 3-head, a DBX. Wow. And I have a Hitachi 3-head as well. Both have VU meters. What? VHS players with VU meters and DBX. Okay, that's a new level. That's awesome. Adam says, how did things go for you during the hurricane? Stay safe. Adam, I appreciate that. Good question. I was disappointed that, how do I say this? It was a blessing because we did not get hit, and a lot of people did and had a lot of difficulty, and that's sad and awful. That being said, we were so prepared. We had everything ready. We've got friends in the area that were prepping us on what to do, but we got sideswiped, so all we got was some wind and rain, and I was kind of looking for a little bit more intense of a storm. A friend of mine says, congratulations, you've now ridden out your first hurricane, and I feel like I haven't yet. So anyway, so we'll see. It was fine. We did fine. That just wasn't a big issue for us. But for a lot of others, it was, and not a fun one. So I respect that. Steve says, recording music on VHS, I might have to experiment with that. Yeah, Steve, it's this whole thing. Because think of it, 8-hour tape, you could fit high fidelity audio that's actually incredible on VHS. It's like the cheapest way to record hi-fi. Absolutely cheapest way. Now, keep in mind that unless you have a machine with time code or some sort of way of tracking it, you could lose music very easily on an 8-hour tape or a 6-hour tape, whatever. So if you do that, I would think of it more as like a playback or like a way to make a really cheap long mixtape. That would be really, really cool. Because think of it, if you were like a store owner and you didn't want to subscribe to like Muzak or one of those music services or hook up a phone to a digital service, there's a lot of free internet radio. But let's say you were wanting to do it a retro way. You can make a music for the background for your shoppers of your store on a long VHS tape for cheap. What do you think of Kate Bush? I'm a big fan of her music. Do you have any of her albums? Spirit Haunter, I am not that. I know the name, but I couldn't tell you anything else. So I'm, at this point in life, agnostic to the topic of Kate Bush, but I'm open to learning about new artists and always like discovering new talent. David says, found a pristine Joan Armand trading 45. Am I saying that right? While decluttering. That's cool. Don't recognize that name either. You guys have actually introduced me to a lot of artists, so I'm excited when I learn about somebody new. My current one is a Magnavox 1960s with 8-track, man, my allergies tonight, and cassette player. Interesting piece, record player, $5 with speakers. 8-track came with a different system. That is cool, 20 in shipping. Semperfi 1918, cool username. That is amazing, actually. Very, very interesting. Sounds like you got a really good deal and some interesting gear there. El cassette tape was kind of like Betamax stuck in a large. Yeah, El cassette, another format I doubt I'll get into, but it's cool. What is notable about 45s versus 33s? Says David. That's a good question. I prefer 33s. The material that 45s are made out of is, if it's vinyl, it's usually a more brittle, harder vinyl. And so those 45s to me don't sound as good. And there's people that are into 45s like crazy into them and will say, you're absolutely insane. They want them because they sound better to their ears because, 45 RPMs is faster than 33. And with analog media, more media is better. So with 45 RPMs, you're getting more vinyl under the stylus per second than with 33. So more vinyl is higher resolution and it's better sounding. Same thing with like tape. The faster the tape moves, the better the quality is of whatever's on it. So that is one thing, and people swear by it. But the thing in my experience is that 45s, especially used ones, tend to be very brittle and very harsh material, like a different formulation, and they're thinner too, because a 45 has a raised hub because the records are designed to be stacked. And then the actual playing surface of the record. In fact, I can demonstrate this. The record surface, let's see here. A record from the band that shall not be named. So here's a 45. And if I hold this like this, the hub is thicker. See how that dark line there? It's like thicker. And then the actual playing surface is thinner. That's so that records can be stacked. So like on a changer, you can stack it, and the only part touching is right here. And that theoretically keeps the playing surface separated from other records stacked, assuming the record never warps, but they do warp. They warp like crazy. But the problem is that 45s have a harsher material and they just don't sound as good to me. Also, there's a big problem with 45s that they are oftentimes made out of polystyrene, and not even vinyl. And polystyrenes sound noticeably worse. So hold on one second, guys. Gotta blow my nose here. Hold on. Some water. I don't know, my allergies are kicking up all of a sudden. Coming out of focus like a bad dream. Woo, here we go. Sorry for the sniffles. So anyway, that's kind of the opinion about them. Obviously, people also say like the 45s, you get different versions of songs, singles. But yeah, I prefer the 33s. Superprint says, I wish I could afford a 3-head cassette deck. However, I have 13 cassette decks all hooked up. Wow. Working and ready to go. The brands I have are one Akai, 2 Technics, 2 Denons, a Sony, and 1 Nakamichi. Still rue the day that I turned down a $14 fully functional Nakamichi. Not a Dragon, but still shouldn't have done that. So 3-head cassette decks, 3-head tape decks are the best. And the reason why they're the best is when you make a recording, it has a playhead. So you are listening to the playback of the actual recorded sound. Therefore, you're able to set your levels better, et cetera, et cetera. They don't make a higher quality recording. They don't play back a different quality or anything. They just make it easier to make recordings because you don't have to wonder what's going to happen with the final output. So my Yamaha's a 2-head deck. And what that means is when I make a recording, when I'm hearing the music in the moment, what I'm hearing is actually the line input. I'm listening to the line input. So when I set the levels to that line input, it may alter or it may differ slightly from what's recorded. The recorded sound often is a little lower than what you record. So if you have a 2-head deck and you set your level to 0 dB, when you play back the tape, it'll often be a little lower because it tends to play back a little bit more depleted than when it went in. If you had a 3-head deck and you were listening instead of the line input, you're listening to the live playback, you could set those levels and understand a little bit better. I'm not a huge, I have to have a 3-head tape deck kind of guy. This one is not a 3-head machine, but my reel-to-reel is. I don't know what's with the allergies. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on. Sorry about that. So, DBX, that's a really cool thing. Use Durham's for wood repair if skillful. If skillful. That's what rules me out. We got the skillful part, doesn't work. WHHS has a Sony TCW5 cassette deck. Looking that up. Awesome. I might have had this. Oh, I've had something similar. That's a cool looking deck. Very slim. I like it a lot. I like the It's a Sony. Does yours still have the It's a Sony sticker? That's really cool. And then I own 3 reel-to-reel machines, 1 Akai, 2 TIAC. One of my TIACs is a 10-inch deck, all working, ready to go. That's cool. I would love to have a deck with Logic, like a reel-to-reel deck with Logic controls and auto reverse. I think that would be very cool. I don't necessarily need a 10-inch machine, though. I just wouldn't. Those tapes are so expensive. Those are really expensive tapes. My reel-to-reel that I've got now is my Akai GX4000D with the glass ferrite heads that last forever. Why has mini disc been forgotten? It hasn't been forgotten. David, I got one right here. My mini disc machine is right here. In fact, I've even got a mini disc right here. Good old Sony. On it, I have music from the band that shall not be named. And I love the format. I've had some trouble with it before because did a whole series of videos on this. What is this? JE510, I think I've got down here. Component level unit has a problem where when it records 45 minutes into the recording, it just starts going haywire. So portables, trying to get one that works these days is very difficult. I think it was an interesting format. It's lossy compression, so it's not CD quality. Although A-Track 3 is a very high quality compression. It's not as good as lossless. So it's technically not, full resolution digital. People these days, there's just not a lot. It's a niche thing. There's people that collect it, people that are really into it, but there's not a whole lot of interest, I think, for that because it's kind of like a digital cassette recorder, which in and of itself doesn't have a whole lot of interest either for the general public. For you and me, it's super cool. I love it. I've still never had a pre-recorded mini disc. I got into mini disc late in the game. I got into mini disc about 12 years ago. VHS deck I'm rocking is a Memorex, but I have several, many needing repair. That's awesome. WHHS says, I want to try my hand at Laserdisc. Oh, I've never got into that. Analog video read optically through a laser. Still can't wrap my head around that. Analog video with digital audio. Mini discs aren't forgotten, says Adam. It's hard to get your hand on. Inexpensive when you do. Superprint says, I have one Betamax Sony Hi-Fi working ready to go. One 8-track recorder. You have DAT as well? That's great. You got a lot of formats. I have a completely Hi-Fi and DJ ready. That is so cool. You've got it ready for both use cases. Music, listening, and creation. Spirit Haunter says, I found a boombox type player on the side of the road, and it has been amazing. Sound quality, playing CDs is also CSD or Iowa. I think you're trying to say Iowa. CSD 8076. That's awesome. Adam, they're expensive. It's just expensive as DAT. Nothing hi-fi is cheap. Old Radio says the Betamax I bought as a historical artifact is the same model. Ray Glasser, you may have seen his videos about the same model in 76. Very cool. Steve says, back to the tone arm issue. Could it be grounding if it's static buildup? It could be, but I've tried it now in 2 different rooms on 2 different power supplies with different cartridges, different preamps, different times of the day. And it's like clockwork. I'll put it on the shelf, not touch it for a month, put it back into use, and it'll just start doing it again. It's the weirdest thing. It'll play fine for a period of time, and then all of a sudden it'll just start doing that. It's very weird. And it's not like it builds up static because it's been playing for 6 hours. You could unplug it, disconnect everything, put it back together, and it'll do it right away again if you've been listening to it for the last couple of days. It's very strange. Very, very weird. Superprint says, I'm waiting on Amazon Prime Day because I want Ortofon 2M Red moving magnet cartridge. I want it badly. I need 2 of them. Wow. That's a good value of a cartridge because they're like $100. And it's the same cartridge as the blue. It just is a different stylus. Superprint says, 3 excellent. I have a Pioneer PLX 1000 for DJ use, and their reloop is very good. Should have them in their studio at DJ for. That's cool, Superprint. That's really cool. My gen was during the late CD and MP3 era. Man, I remember how exciting MP3s were. The whole idea of I had a bunch of off-brand MP3 players before I ever had an iPod, but to have as much music crammed into a handheld device was so interesting to me. I was so fascinated. I also have always been a fan of old-time radio shows, and so I could fit, those are usually encoded very, very low res, like less than 100 megabits per second or kilobits per second, and I would just pile on thousands of these shows. I'd have like all 600 episodes of Jack Benny with me at all times. To me, that for a long time, that was the greatest thing. Like, I can listen to any show I want at any time, anywhere. And I still get that that's cool. I definitely do get that that's cool. But it's interesting how, at least for me, my interest kind of evolved. And eventually I wanted the idea of, the less portable, more physical media. Oh, to demagnetize record covers, David. I actually have a demagnetize. I have a, it's been a while since I've had it on the show. It's this magic wand thing. I need to do more on that. That's a controversial topic. So many people there's no magnetism in a record. Best normal bias, says David. Speaking of bias, on my machine, I set it to the standard 0 setting, and then so far I have not felt a need to. I need to experiment. That's going to take some time because your bias setting is, obviously only at the record stage. So I need to make some recordings with different bias settings and just listen to them like extremes. Like go hard left, record 10 seconds, hard, maybe straight up and then hard right, to hear that and understand kind of better how that impacts the sound. As long as it's AC bias, then you're good, right? I have one for archiving records on my computer. The price is enough to make you cry. It does benefit me in the long run. Speaking of prices enough to make you cry, I need to figure out a way to make a customized 16-inch transcription record player. I tried to modify the LP7 years ago unsuccessfully, and I need to do a show where, because I have two 16-inch Army transcription discs from right at the end of World War II that I want. They're vinyl too, 33 RPM, that I want to have demonstrate and all this stuff. But try a transcription capable deck, that's expensive. So I want to find one or modify one that can. Now I need to find a USB interface phono preamp. The only one I have was frustrating because I have to turn my computer on to make the sound come out. Interesting. Holy cow, I'm so far behind. Okay, I'm going to try and really go through this fast. You guys are on to like 3 conversations past where I'm at. Good grief. Superprint says, for playback, I have 2 turntables, Audio Technica LP120, and a Best Buy brand Insignia turntable. It's my daily go. It's a great little turntable. We reviewed that a few years ago. Uphono UFO 202. Haven't heard of that one. Use my Pioneer PLX 1000 for DJ use only. Yeah, that's not a play. That's like, I would agree with that. I wouldn't use that for playback. I mean, it could play back fine, but it's just not built for that. John says, what do you think about realistic STA receiver and Minimus 7 speakers? Potentially a very good fit. I would have to listen to them, and I haven't yet. Where does Duke fit into your big band? To my collection of big band, I'd love Duke Ellington music. I have a few things. I need more. I want more Duke Ellington. Just a different. It's kind of, to me, Duke Ellington is like a sophisticated. I've seen the Duke Ellington Orchestra live, by the way, a number of years ago, like over 10 years ago, and led by his grandson. Saw him at the University of Denver. An absolutely fantastic big band. Absolutely fantastic. Very hip. Very, how would I describe it? It's a very progressive big band sound. It's a less traditional, more progressive. His granddad's, and it's so funny because people in the band kept referring to his granddad. And it's like, this is crazy. This guy's grandfather was Duke Ellington. But his grandfather's band was a sophisticated band. And they could absolutely swing the heck out of things. But they had a sophistication that I really, really admire. And something is similar along the lines of like Stan Kenton. And I've really grown to appreciate that, especially some of the experimental jazz things that he did, some of the piano works that he did later in life in his career. I love the early live recordings. I need to get more. I need to get more Duke. Absolutely. Philips dual recorder. Some friends these are okay, but to each their own. Sermon tapes, I came across many a day. Yeah, there's so many of those out there. I've been collecting vinyl since I was 8. Now I'm 41 years old. That's really cool. Yeah, I had vinyl as a kid too, but then I thought I washed my hands of it, never wanting to go back to it. And, here I am. Supper Prince, you got into vinyl when people were making fun of it and putting same category as 8-tracks. It's true. David, I'm not sure if that's geared towards me, but I appreciate you as well. I appreciate each and every one of you. I remember the attitude about vinyl in the 90s and early 2000s. Oh, yeah. For a while there, that was the most archaic, uncool, unhip thing you could do. And now, all of a sudden, it's trendy again. How long will the revival last? For the JVC SVHS, yes, it had a jog dial. Those things still command a decent price. Oh, man. I remember deck-to-deck editing on SVHS machines. Editing with a video toaster for graphics. Videos. I'm 33. Every time I hear people mentioning vinyl on TV as a kid, people would make a joke about how they didn't upgrade to CDs. CDs were very cool to have when they made the mainstream. You wouldn't want to go around high school saying, I listen to vinyl still. They would have laughed you all the way home. Does anyone know what the group Stories is famous for? I do not, David. Superprint says, when vinyl made a comeback in the late 2000s, I was happy and went right back to vinyl. I sold my CD collection and went right back. I sold off a huge CD collection as well for a different reason. But I hear you. Greg says, I have a sound bar. The sound bar has good sound. That's great. A lot of people use a sound bar. I knew a guy years back. I reviewed his first LP60 I ever got my hands on. It was a Gen 1 LP60. And the way he listened to music was his sound bar hooked up to an LP60. That was it. Built-in preamp and everything. And it worked perfectly fine for him. Started in 2002, technical. Store music on hi-fi VHS, yep. Editing music video on, yep. Exactly. I used to do that so much. Yes, lay the music down and cut to the video. So fun to time out those transitions. I loved editing music videos. Ion vinyl player is a good, you know, an Ion probably has a cartridge, that a ceramic cartridge with a red tip stylus. You know, it's a good starting point. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not going to damage your vinyl or anything. So yeah, it's a good starting point. But if you and when you upgrade, you're going to get an incredible increase in sound quality. If you have one that already has a white cartridge, white tip cartridge, the moving magnetic variety, you're going to already be realizing increased performance over the ceramics. And again, check out our beginners playlist. So much to talk about in that. But yeah, that's a good starting point. We've had a lot of Ion turntables on the channel. Thanks for replying via 45s. Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm missing comments, I apologize. Vinyl press 45s I have good luck with, but styrene. Yeah, styrene records are very interesting. I even have styrene 12-inch LPs. And the styrenes are injection molded, which is weird. They're not pressed. It's very strange. And we've done shows about how to tell the difference between the two. But basically, if you hold up a 45, I'll use this one again, to tell whether or not your 45 is vinyl or not, hold it fairly loosely like this, and then tap it and listen. Listen to the dull thud. Dull thud is vinyl, and that's desirable. That's what you want. But if you do that and the sound is not dull vinyl, it's a ringing sound. If it sounds more of a ring, a resonant ring, then that means it is styrene, which they break easier, they wear out a lot faster. Now, that's not to say styrene records sound bad. I have some styrene 12-inch LPs that sound absolutely fantastic. They just can't take quite the beating that the 45, or it can't take quite the beating that vinyl can. Steve says, as we're approaching the holiday season, plans to do Vlogmas videos again. I like those. Helped me get into the Christmas spirit. Steve, I'm really, really thankful to hear that. If anybody really wants us to do Vlogmas again, myself and Mrs. Record-ology, definitely voice your opinions. That will heavily influence whether or not those happen. We were just talking about that today, deciding whether or not to do them. And if you guys see value there, if you enjoy them, we would love to produce those. So let us know in comments and whatever. You know, the more we hear about that, the more likely we're to do them again. It's a lot of fun, and it helps us be in the spirit as well. In fact, we were just talking about how boring, Christmas might be without Vlogmas. So definitely would like to do that. I know, Super Prince. And when I speak against 45s, people are like, what are you talking about? A lot of people just love them. And that's fine. Just my opinion. Scott, welcome in. What would have been your preference, 45 RPM or 78 various speeds shellac records? For what purpose? For collectability, 78s. If I ever get my hands on a Patsy Cline 78, that thing is getting framed. I've never framed a record before, but that would be the first one I would frame. I would listen to it once. I might digitize it, and then I would clean it and frame it, and not in a disc washer. Don't clean your. If you have any sort of like rotating wet washing system, don't put a shellac 78 in there. They snap. I've broken some Glenn Miller 78s trying to do that. Just gently hand clean them. Anyway, yeah, I would totally do that. Now, for sound quality, I would say a 45 is going to beat a 78. With the right equipment, 78s can sound incredible. So that's a generalization. When I went to Houston the last time and got to tour Kurt Knox, Fort Knox, as he calls it, he played 78s to me that sounded like they were recorded yesterday. And he was playing on his like $700-800 sub $1,000 Technics turntables, but he had all of the fixings, as I would say. He had a D EQ, like it would flatten the response because there's no RIAA curve on 78s, obviously. So it would flatten the curve, and then it was specialty left and right channel. It was like an audiophile setup, these massive speakers. And I heard this stuff recorded in the 20s that sounded like it could have been recorded yesterday. In my experience on this level of equipment, which isn't bad, the PLX 500 isn't bad. It's got a proper wide groove stylus. It is RIAA, so the EQ is a little off. And even a perfectly clean shellac record, it's going to sound a little more noisy to me than even a 45. In my experience at this level, that being said, they can sound fantastic. And I do love them, old radios. I love them a lot. They're historic. They have a story to tell. They've got personality, and they're like a time machine. So I do agree. They are fantastic, but that's my assessment based on my experience. Old radios, I got a Montgomery Ward AM radio 78 turntable today, but it needs capacitors. That sounds like a fun project. You have to let me know how that goes. Fun time, Freddie. I'm getting an Ion cassette boombox for Christmas this year. How do you know what you're getting for Christmas already? Good news, allergies have subsided. But that's cool. That's really, really cool. That'll be fun. I have a Rolling Stones reel-to-reel tape. Wow, that is probably valuable. My allergies are bad too, says Jerry. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm just sitting here and then all of a sudden I'm sniffling. Steve says, allergies, welcome to the South. Never had issues with allergies until I moved to Virginia. I have had allergies my whole life in Colorado. And after moving to Florida, they're not out of control. And there have been times when I used to be on like weekly allergy shots as a kid. I mean, I had bad allergies. I did the skin prick test on the back where they prick your back 100 times and put all these little substances in there. It's an awful thing to go through. So I was a serious allergy kid, like medication allergy, injection allergy kid. And as an adult, as I grew up, I remember as a teenager, I had to use like a daily pill for my allergies, but then they kind of got under control. And now I don't even need an allergy pill unless I'm having a specific attack. But after moving to Florida, it's definitely ramped up, not only the, allergies, like, this kind of stuff, but also like skin allergies. Like you get rashes and things a lot easier. It's really weird. I'm still adjusting, I guess, to the moist climate. But yeah, allergies, not fun. They'll slow you down for sure. I also have this thing that happens to me. I don't know if you guys ever have this happen, but I have this thing where I'll feel like I'm either getting sick or having allergies, but I can't tell if it's a cold or not until the next day. So it's like if I sleep it off and I feel normal the next day, I realize it was allergies. But if I don't, then I know I got sick. I don't know if you guys have that. That happens to me. Reel-to-reel sound better than cassette decks do. Well, reel-to-reel obviously is more real estate on the tape, and obviously a faster speed most of the time. So yeah, 7.5 inches per second, 1/4-inch tape. But then why not upgrade to 10-inch reels at 15 inches per second? Or why don't you step up to a 1/2-inch reel-to-reel tape at 30 inches per second? So you can always go up another level. Some of the craziest reel-to-reel I ever saw was at a recording studio my wife was at a couple of years ago, and it was 2-inch, 16-track magnetic audio tape. And you could still go into that studio and they could record to that format if you wanted to. Super expensive. Old radios, I'm a Sony fanboy. Me too. Finally cooling off down here in Florida. Yeah, Scott, I was just talking about that earlier. Man, today felt good. It felt so good today. My reel-to-reel machines are 3 heads. Yeah, my Akai is as well. Yeah, 78s can sound really good. They can. Tape, oh yeah, depends on the tape, absolutely. Philips reel-to-reel, absolutely. Old radios, thank you. How far off am I now? You can buy cassette boomboxes in Sam's Club? That's crazy. Hold on, I'm losing my place. Okay, here we go. DAT and DCC. That's awesome. Ordered a 51 pack of mini discs. That must not have been cheap. Wow. Reel-to-reel sounds amazing. However, cassettes can sound just as amazing as a reel-to-reel, says Super Prince. I love cassettes. It does get even like 8-tracks. Some people say, oh, 8-tracks sound terrible. They can sound really good. It's a 1/4-inch tape. It's running at 3 3/4 inches per second. But it uses, 8-tracks actually per track has the same real estate as a compact cassette, which is a 1/8-inch tape, because they have 8 tracks. So each one of those tracks is the same size as a 4-track compact cassette, but it's running at twice the speed. So it can sound good. It can sound really good. Different kind of tape, though. Backed with 8 tracks are backed with a material to help it slide against itself. Which Techmon just talked about that in a video he did. That was an interesting video. Had to wait almost a month as they were shipping from Japan. Oh, you're patient. I am so, I need instant gratification. If you use Type 2 or Type 4 cassette, depending on the cassette, ESP, a 3-head. Yeah, I even played around with Dolby S. You know what? Lately, I don't use any Dolby. I don't need it. I mean, if a tape is Dolby encoded, I will usually play back with a Dolby on, but I don't mind a little hiss. The older I get, the more I realize I'm not fighting hiss. I don't feel like I'm at war against hiss like I used to be. It's kind of fun to listen to the different characteristics in terms of noise and sound quality on different tape mixtures without even putting through. I find that Dolby, even if it's done properly, kind of adds a muddiness to it, and it's not quite as crisp. And I'd rather have. So I record my own tapes without any Dolby, even though this machine does B and C. I've had a Sony that did S. I was unimpressed with it. I know you can get CD quality sound Dolby S using Type 4 tape, but just not a fan of it. Zach says Sony CMT EX1 vertical CD player. Let's take a gander. A lot of Sony stuff tonight. Oops, I just copied the wrong thing. Hold on. By the way, thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. This is fun. Before we begin our busy work week. Oh yeah, these are cool. These were all the rage, early 2000s. That is cool. I was listening to my Studebaker boombox this afternoon with a vertical CD player in it. Do the old Shure and Pickering carts. I need to do more. I haven't ever played with a Pickering cart. I did when I had my Glenburn changer, which is a BSR type. I had a Shure M44, which I liked. It sounded fun. It was a good neutral cart. Dig more. Okay, I'm sorry. It was a question. Do the old Shure and Pickering carts dig more into the grooves? I don't think so. It depends on what they're tracking at. The tracking force on those is probably in the 3 to 4 gram range, depending on the model. So there's no reason to think it would dig any deeper. Cartridges are set to weigh on the record a certain weight. Absolutely. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Victor says, I just want to let you know We had our baby last month. I wanted to let you know because I remember your stream last December and my wife was pregnant then. That's great, Victor. Congratulations. That is so awesome. What a blessing. That's so cool to hear. Congratulations, Victor. That's a miracle and a blessing. Bias was regarding tape brands. Scott says, I remember making cassette tapes for a World War II themed restaurant. Oh, cool, Scott. That sounds like fun. Put music from that era on that. That's cool. Thoughts on collecting old? I assume that's BSR McDonald turntables. I don't think the BSRs are bad at all. And the Glenburn I had was an offshoot company that the guy that started Glenburn or BSR went and started his own company. So yeah, no issues with them whatsoever. I think they're good. They're boxy and hollow plinths, and but that's what you would find in a console, and like that's what my grandparents had, and they worked fine. They didn't think about it as hard as we think about this stuff now. You know what I mean? Like I guarantee you, my grandmothers never lost sleep wondering if they had excessive tracking force on their record players. Mr. Londell's Groovy Movie says, speaking of Ellington, I love the suites he and Strayburn arranged. Yeah, absolutely. That stuff is crazy. Man, there's so much good. I love watching their YouTube stuff as well. Absolutely amazing. So much talent there. Such a unique sound. I love it. I need to listen to more Ellington. David says, I'll try some used Stan LPs soon. Thanks. Albert says, nearly all my vinyl, around 600 LPs, bought in the 70s and 80s, switched to CD in the mid to late 80s. And now do you use both? David says, white vinyl has been resurrected. What about speakers? Okay, while vinyl has been resurrected, what about the speakers of old? Absolutely, they can sound really good. It just depends on usually those surrounds. Oftentimes vintage speakers have a paper cone, and the rubber surrounds will dry out and things. And but yeah, they can sound good too. I used to work with a guy he had his apartment full of speakers that he bought on Goodwill, and tuned them up, fixed them up, and sold them for profit on eBay. So yeah, absolutely, they can sound good. I just prefer the route of powered speakers. Personally, I think now vinyl sales surpass CDs. Yeah, I think so as well. WHHS Entertainment. Here's a weird phonograph you've never heard of. The Pug gramophone. I actually think I have. Let me see. Let me see what I can see. Oh, no, I have not. Maybe I saw this over at Kurt Knox. Oh, that is so cool looking. This one I'm looking at has like this weird wood disc thing on the side. What am I looking at? Is that like a sound tube? What? Okay, that is cool. I might have seen one at Kurt Knox. Wow. What they were able to do is just artistry, level of artistry. I have decided that I think I'm going to pick up a whatchamacallit, a wind-up gramophone, like a portable one. I don't think I would get into the full-size ones again. I had the big one, and it's beautiful, but it's so because it's space-consuming. It takes up a lot of space. But I think a portable, like a 40s era portable one, maybe like an ex-Army portable one, acoustic, would be very cool. Joe says record player for vinyl with speakers, 3-speed vinyl record player, dual stereo outputs. Sounds like a cool one. It's red but has diamond, and that's good. If you got the diamonds tip stylus, that will last longer. You'll get 1,000 plays, 1,000 sides before you have to change the stylus. Absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, if you have a link, send me the link. Email me the link. Would love to do that, Joe. Thank you so much. I'll throw in another request. American Pie Smile says David. Albert Sim or Superprint says, no, you're right, 45s they get worn fast. Yeah, those styrene ones. Do you want to know something really interesting? Did you know cassette shells are also made out of polystyrene? Very interesting. Most of my old LPs, oh, they're in like new condition. Used to buy the record, transfer to high grade blank cassette, put the record on shelf. A lot of people did that. Preserve the record, transfer it to tape, wear out the tape. Radio station I visited had 2 reel-to-reel tape decks, and the reels were the size of semi-truck tires. Wow, that's cool. David says, I love the nostalgia of preventing hiss, crackle, or pop. I've just embraced it at this point. Absolutely. Music Junkie, welcome in. I want to see you play a stack of Jamaican 45s on your RCA changer. That would be cool. I need to do that. I need to get some Jamaican. Do I have Jamaican 45s? I don't think so, but I'd like to. Got on head on out. Scott, thanks for dropping in. Would definitely appreciate you being here. Starting to get my kicks out of looking up unusual gramophones. Yeah, those are really cool. Shibata Microline. I need to get into that. I haven't done it yet. I need to. I know I'm missing out on this stuff. I need to, but just haven't done it. Just comment on your Technics turntable video. Have you tried replacing the cartridge? Yes, I have. And I meant to say that I had done that. I replaced the entire cartridge. Made no difference. Still same behavior, but that's a great suggestion. Steve says, vintage clip speakers go for some serious money. I agree, and they're very cool looking. And if you don't have that kind of money, consider the Crosley Octave, a fantastic speaker at a lot less price, especially now because I think they're discontinued, so they're all used. And people like to use old tube amps with them. That's really cool. Early cylinder machine. Also haven't got into cylinders. I came across a big treasure trove of them at an antique store a few months ago. Inherited a pair of EPI speakers, 1977. They're absolutely incredible. Wow, that sounds cool. David says, I think people are being conditioned to surround versus 2-channel stereo and missing the intent. Very possible. What is your day job, by the way, Record-ology? Oh, man, I could tell you this. It's boring compared to this. This stuff is so much fun. No, actually, I love my day job. I get to work in the IT industry. I will say that. So it's a fun job that I get to do from home. I work with fantastic people, and it's a huge, huge blessing. Albert says, I've probably purchased less than 10 vinyl LPs in the last few years. Most were old Homer and Jethro releases. That's cool. Didn't have and have been reissued. That's really cool. Still buy a CD version of something if available. Absolutely. I love CDs. Why I have independent systems running. Got my 77 Quasar, great time machine. I'm trying to get it to work in as much as I can, but I'm paranoid of breaking something. It's a rare VCR. Yeah, that sounds really cool. Whichever format has the most music. And take these brick of tapes. Interesting. Nakamichi RE2 receiver for vinyl, AVR for TV. I'll send you some Jamaican 45 someday music. Oh, that's cool. That'd be awesome. Thank you. Oh, that'd be great. Reggae 45s. Yeah, that'd be sick. That'd be awesome. I'd love that. Albert says there's stuff you can only get on old vinyl. Yes, it's not all available on all formats. Absolutely. 2 of the old Homer and Jethro Camden releases ordered from Discogs are still sealed, but were less than $10. I've heard people get great deals on Discogs. I have yet to buy a record on Discogs. I only use it to research records. I had to open them to digitize them there. Yeah, I would, even if they were sealed, I would unseal them because that shrink wrap can shrink and distort your records. Imagine shrink wrap shrinking. They can keep shrinking, is what I'm saying. Ever heard of Fraser speakers? I have the capsules. Interesting. I've not. So Prince says, I love reggae. I need to get some reggae music. You guys got me in this reggae mood now. My friends, we've got nearly an hour and a half, and I just want to say to you, thank you so very, very much for making time to be with me this evening and every time we get to do these lives. I love them. I love hanging out with you guys. You guys are awesome. And I have some amazing things coming your way that I can't wait to share with you soon. Some great videos. Again, if you haven't seen today's video, I posted it right when I went live. I'm not sure what that does for the algorithm, but go check out today's video. Consider joining the membership program. Consider the merchandise, the 45 adapters. A reminder that the blue 45 adapter, this is the limited edition one that we have available right now, is available. This Ocean Wave blue. It's a reflective metallic blue. It's absolutely gorgeous. So if you would like these 3D printed, let us know. Also working on developing Seeberg adapters. I don't own the design to this one. It's a bit of a flawed design anyway, but it's really cool. Working on releasing our own Record-ology Seeberg adapters. And in case you want to know, for comparison's sake, that's a size comparison between a 45 adapter and a Seeberg adapter. So check that out if you haven't done so already. Albert, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. You need a break, DJ. Play us something. I know I should have played music. I didn't end up doing it. Ran out of time. It doesn't sound that good over a live anyway, unfortunately. But yeah, anyway. My friends, thank you so very, very much. Ray, welcome in. We're just finishing up. You can watch the replay. Anyway, thank you. Thank you for being there. I want you to know how much I appreciate you, each and every one of you. Thanks for being there. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Lots of fun stuff coming. We will see you next time.